This is the Wandering Mike.
Welcome everyone to the Wandering Mike. Today I'm here with Tim. Hey Tim, what you doing?
Hello, Mike. How are you? I'm doing well.
Doing pretty good. It's a nice magical night.
It is. We could get rained on at any moment. So if you guys hear a pause, that would be us running. But we'll be back, and you won't even know that.
It might actually start to rain, but no, we got a nice little spot here at the WA Shipwreck Museum
Very
in
cool.
Fremantle.
Have you been in?
I actually have.
Yeah, me too.
I actually been in there last week, and like the big wreck they have there, like just there, is actually quite nice.
It's very cool. A lot of Dutch shenanigans have been going on in these parts for a while. So, and it's well documented in there.
Yeah, it actually is. When I was with my parents as well, when we were going up the west coast here, and basically every time you had like a lookout over the sea, there was another shipwreck. Like at the end of it, my dad was like, "Is it another shipwreck?" I was like, "Yes, it sure is."
Gotta be.
So I actually didn't know. I mean, obviously, the Dutch and eventually the British, but yeah, on the western side, it is more the Dutch
More
actually
Dutch.
did come here, but I didn't know that that many ships actually wrecked like that.
Yeah. So I guess a lot of trouble with sandbars and coral and all kinds of stuff like that.
Sure.
You know?
Um. So yeah. I don't know if shipwreck is the best way to tease this episode, but to get into it, Tim, how we usually start these things is if you just want to tell us first thing that comes to mind. If I say introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we just go from there. We see what we dread up, what we get to talking to about, and that's it.
Yeah. No worries. So my name's Tim. I'm from the United States. I hail from all kinds of states. I was born in Texas, but grew up primarily in Southern California,
Mhm.
outside San Diego. Our parents, me, I have two older brothers as well, so I'm the youngest of three. Our parents work just drug us around the country. So we also, within California, moved a couple times, lived in Arizona as well. And then I went off to school in Georgia and then moved back to Texas as like a young adult and lived
Oh
with my
wow.
brother, my middle brother. And then from there, went back to Arizona again with my parents. And then from there, I started backpacking. I went down to Mexico with some friends of mine from university. We played on the rugby team together.
Oh, cool.
And just that was where I met, a bunch of other backpackers. That was my first time in like a hostel. I was just like your typical naive American traveler and learning everything on the go and cutting my teeth as we went. But in a very good way. And I met my first real life, Australian and Kiwi, and then people from all over the world, Germans, and English and French, and so on and so forth. And from there, I just caught the bug. And then next thing you know, I went to Australia. Did that for about 4 years.
Right.
Went back home for a little bit and did a big road trip around, my neck of the woods, and that was beautiful. And then from there, I went to England for a bit and,
Oh, wow.
went from England, springboarded it back into Europe, and then eventually back home for a while. Then after I got tired of being home, well, here I am. So in WA, my second time in Australia, but my first time out west, as because the first time I was in Australia was during I arrived January 2020, and
Right.
I'm not sure if you remember,
So in
but
March 2020,
there was a pandemic.
there
Yeah,
was a
so
pandemic.
I got stuck here for a while, but not a bad place to be stuck, I say. And if I could do it over, I'd do it again. And yeah, so but I was stuck on the East Coast, and so this was my first time coming out to the West Coast.
Right.
That's basically a quick sum up.
So in that, there's already a lot of things that I'd love to dive into and just ask you a little bit more about. Maybe one provocative question to start it off. How does one end up growing up in the United States, going to college, and playing on the rugby team?
Yeah.
How's that work?
Yeah, so, I, was pretty sporty growing up, played soccer and stuff. Tried my hand at football, but I was just like, always just kinda too small. And
Mm,
so, but luckily in rugby, there's a position for everybody.
Right.
So went over to the rugby team, had a beautiful coach, wonderful coach there. He trained us up well. We played some games. We did sevens as well, and would
Mm,
travel to do sevens tournaments. And then from there, we went to Georgia Southern University, and they had a full on like rugby club,
right.
like union, and got stuck into it and made some of the best friends of my life. And we played lots of games. We practiced multiple times a week, and try to keep each other honest with like lift sessions and decent, um, diets that weren't just a million beers. But we also did that too. So
Now
that's that.
that's pretty cool.
Um,
And one of the things, honestly don't remember if I told you, but when I was growing up and going to school in Germany, obviously. I did do a year of international, well, not studying, but going to school. And I did that in the United States, in
okay.
Virginia. So I actually went to high school in Buckingham County, Virginia for a year.
Wow.
And for me, I love football, America.
American football, yeah.
So that was the time when I was like, "You're in the States, you have to play on the team." And what I always tell people to this day is that, especially in combination with school, I really love that you guys really put the emphasis on sports. And like you said, we also practiced every day. Every day after school was football practice. It was just such a community. It was such a also thing of discipline.
Yep.
You have your practice 3 hours after school, 2 to 3 hours every single day, and that's one of the things to this day I say I admire the most about the United States is incorporating that into the school system and actually making time for that and assorting specific times
Yeah.
for stuff like that.
And for any and all sports too, whether you're
Of
playing
course.
volleyball, basketball, tennis, track and field, cross country,
Yeah,
running, like whatever you're into, there's probably a spot for it at most schools, and hopefully you'll get a good coach. And the best part out of that is being on a team, right? And
exactly.
the camaraderie, in particular, a sport like American football, where it's very male
Mm.
dominated. So a good brotherhood, and I'm
Yeah,
particularly again with rugby, I still stay in contact with all my teammates. We
that's
have we have a big
amazing.
group chat on Instagram. It's just full of obnoxious reels and shit we say, and if it ever gets leaked to the CIA, we're done. We're
Yeah.
done. We're gonna be arrested. So yeah, but it's fun. It's fun. So
So to ask the question probably everyone is asking at the moment, when can we see that chat?
never, never. If you unless you got
That's
a warrant or a subpoena, but even then, we just wouldn't probably leave you on red out of safety.
that's anticlimactic.
And
Uh,
once you see, you can't unsee it. So be careful what you wish for, right?
Thinking back to the past, thinking about what we actually talked in the football locker room, yeah, you're
Yeah,
probably
right?
right.
It
Uh,
stays this is like a virtual locker room, essentially, and it will stay in the
Right,
virtual locker room. So
fair enough. Um, so before we get into, which always obviously is a big part of the Wandering Mike podcast, your travel experiences and how all that, affected you as well and stuff like that. You did, um, I don't know if you want to call it travel, but move around a lot in the United States
mhm.
prior to actually traveling. So um, it sounded like the first couple of moves were involuntary as you were still a child and your parents moved
Yeah,
around. And then
definitely.
later, uni and stuff like that probably was more voluntary. So myself, always having been in the same place and then obviously traveling on his own accord. I just, yeah, want to ask that question. Was that difficult moving around a lot?
It could be. Like, it had, adverse effects, both, like, good and bad.
Mm.
So my mom and dad worked for the federal government, for the FAA. They're both air traffic controllers.
Right.
Looking not the people waving the wands on the ground,
Right.
but the people up in the tower, or in their case, in a radar center, talking to planes very far away. They can't even see them. It's all on the screen there. So in that case, they're always chasing bigger and better for me and my brothers, right? And
Right.
so Yeah, eventually they settled into a position for a while there in Southern California, just outside San Diego. And yeah, he got us good at making friends, that's for sure. It kind of forced us to
Yeah.
be extroverted in a way. And then in my later years, I ended up going to 3 different high schools in 4 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Oh,
that,
wow.
that made me really good at making friends.
I bet. I bet.
And, some were much better than the others in terms of the high schools and their locations.
Mm.
Um, by the end, I moved in going into my senior year or my 12th year or year 12, however you wanna say that, sixth form, whatever, wherever you're from in the world. I was quite over it at that point, so I was kinda like, "So I just wanna graduate and get out of here and go to
Right.
uni," you know? Um, but it was fun, I got to see a lot, I got to meet a lot of people, got to see different parts of my country, and experience different little subcultures in my country, going from the West Coast to Georgia, they're different. Different, like, in terms of what they do for recreational fun and their attitudes just in general. West Coast is San Diego. Things can be quite in a rush, but at the same time, you still get the chill surfer people and like beautiful weather and like things like that. Where you get to the South, it's definitely a lot more relaxed. And people are like, "Hey, take your time, kick
Mm.
your shoes off, make yourself at home. The fridge is over there," type thing. So, there's aspects I love of both, and aspects that, of course, are grating of both as well. So, but that's just life, so that's okay. And, but yeah, it's been good. I mean, it was good. So I enjoy that our parents were pulled us around because we got to see and do things. And then, yeah, I got good at just being a sociable person because of it.
Yeah. That's a really good way of looking at it. Just seeing the positive in having to be extroverted because you could also just sulk at it and be like, "Oh, now all my friends are gone. What am I gonna do?" But
Yeah.
um, which a few of my friends that actually had to move and stuff, they were dwelling on it quite a lot, and then they missed out on like connecting in the new place. And so yeah, it's good. It's good to see that side of it and just see like, oh well, let's start over.
Yeah. I mean, there are negative aspects. Like I don't really have like a hometown that I would consider is my hometown. People are like,
Yeah.
where you from? I'm always like, well, what state did I live in the most recent? It's like how I pick it. So, but, yeah, I wouldn't say, and because I went to 3 different high schools, I'm not sure, but I'm sure they do it abroad, but in the States, you have like 10-year, 20-year, 30-year reunions where your
Yeah.
class comes
Yeah,
back
we do
and,
that as well.
up until everyone's gone, it's like, well, I didn't go to a 10-year reunion because I didn't, I'm out 3 different high schools. So I was like, which one do I go to?
No,
So like,
true.
things like that. So, but that's just like, I get sad about it for a second, but at the same time, I'm like, "It's okay." Like, I don't really see or hear from a lot of those people anyways, and, if they wanted to see or hear from me, they can always call or text me, or something like that, so that's okay. Um,
Definitely. Um, so you said, if I remember correctly, the first time that you were actually then outside of the United States, you were going to Mexico. So road tripping,
yeah.
traveling a little bit through Mexico.
Yeah, so we flew down so I'd done, like, family European vacations, but this was, like, my
Right.
first solo. I was, like, 24, going on 25 at the time.
Right.
I wanna say 2019. Yeah, something like that. And, me and 2 of my good friends, we went down, we was like, "Oh, let's do Day of the Dead and whatnot down in, like, Mexico City, and then we'll go down and do, like, chill by this beach town." It's called Puerto Escondido down in Oaxaca, the state of Oaxaca. And, at the time, I wasn't working, so they unfortunately had to go back for work, and Mexico's very cheap, so I just, like, stayed
Right.
and, like, hung out in Puerto Escondido, and, yeah, it was awesome, and just, like, that was my first time, like, kinda backpacking and being on my own in that adventure sense. I lived on my own in college and, like, provided for myself that way, but, this is, like, just out there in the wild, somewhere completely new,
Definitely.
right? Somewhere where they don't speak English right away, although a majority of Mexicans know English, and it's yeah, so it's very easy to get around.
Even in like I don't know about that coastal city you just mentioned, like even in because Mexico City I can see, but
Yeah.
more rural Mexico, it's
Yeah,
probably
more
getting
rural
harder.
Mexico, it's, like, hit or miss. So I know a little bit of Spanish. I can get by. Like I can order food. I can
Right.
most importantly, I can I can order like a taxi, things like
Yeah.
that. I can do like your basics. I can get around, ask where some basic things are. I wouldn't be able to have a full blown conversation with someone at a bar or like we're having now, you know.
Right.
So, but it's fun though, and I highly recommend Mexico to anyone and everyone.
So again, I don't know if I told you, but my plan already stands pretty much after Australia, however long it's going to be. Hopefully, it is going to be 2 years. Maybe it's only going to be one,
Mhm.
probably two. But the next destination definitely is South America first, but then
Yeah,
also Central America. So probably Mexico is going to be on that list.
I would definitely recommend you put it on there. So, and the further south you get, the better it gets. People, particularly in America, people get worried about, oh, your safety and stuff. I'm like, well,
Mm,
I never felt unsafe. You know, if you see a scary alley, don't walk down her. Use your noggin.
yeah. I mean, just use common
Just
sense
use
pretty
common
much,
sense.
right?
You'd be fine. So,
It's kind of the same
but
in
that applies to every country here in Australia,
you can
right?
do it in Chicago,
Chicago,
Philadelphia. You have it in the
Philadelphia,
States as well.
Berlin, doesn't matter. Munich, doesn't matter.
No, of
There's
course.
scary spots of every city and every place. But, you know, some get a bad rep, I think, and Mexico is definitely one of them. It's a very safe country, and the people there are very kind.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, all the Mexicans I met outside of Mexico, definitely one of the kindest and friendliest, open people that I met so far.
And by
So
far the best food. It's worth going alone just for the food. So,
yeah, I love Mexican food. I have to say, my personal taste, Indian food's really high up there as
it's my
well.
second favorite. It's my second
There we go.
favorite. Yeah. So,
Yeah, Mexican can never go wrong with a burrito or what was it called? Oh, like a fried burrito. What do you call these?
chimichanga.
Yes,
Yeah. So that's more
yes.
Tex-Mex.
Oh,
That's like
that's
more of an infusion with like Southwest American culture.
all right.
You wouldn't typically find like a chimichanga down in like proper Mexico, possibly in northern Mexico.
Right.
Northern Mexico is where you get like your standard burritos and like tacos and stuff. Otherwise, you get more down south. It's more like dinner plates, like milanesa, which is like where they pound out chicken really thin, can like
Oh,
bread it and fry it. Like steak, like kind of steaks or like tortas, which are like big sandwiches. Also, it's very regional. So down in Oaxaca, they have like their own version of a quesadilla. It's called a tayuda,
oh,
and it's bound together with like Oaxacan cheese, just like a very stringy. It's beautiful. It's amazing cheese, and things like that. And then also like the seafood is like the best part. So like every day, I'll get at least 2 fish tacos
wow.
just to see like what they caught that day. You know,
Right.
because at first I was getting the shrimp, but I was like, oh, shrimp never really changes. The fish one's always kind of,
Yeah,
that one
depends
might
on
change
the
depending on what they're catching.
catch of the day.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely recommend it.
No, that's super cool. That's one of the topics we love to chat about as well as food. So
Yeah,
I do appreciate all these food recommendations.
definitely.
And yeah, I feel like there's still something left I have to discover with Mexican food.
Oh, there's tons. It never ends. So the reason I like it so much is because they have breakfast, lunch, dinner, sweet and savory, desserts, seafood, like everything. Like it's like a very all encompassing cuisine.
Right.
And that's also why Indian's very high up on my rate as well, because you can do
Pretty
everything
much.
with Indian, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. And I could legit eat Mexican for the rest of my life and not be upset. So
No, I second that.
yeah,
I can see that.
I would be totally fine with that.
Um, to ask another question,
Of course.
because we also kind of love to delve into the philosophical a little bit,
Mhm.
and obviously, I don't know too much details around you studying and then going off to Mexico, but just from the way you did explain it, going on a solo road trip, all the friends had to go back to work. Did you always were you like a going with the flow kind of person? You were just like kind of seeing where things take you? Was there like an underlying plan somewhere, or was there none at all on purpose so you could like
Yeah.
float more?
I mean, every time I make a plan, it just kind of falls through. So lately in life, I've just stopped making them. Or I have roadmaps. I have roadmaps of things I want
Right.
to see and go and do. But like I feel like the more meticulous you plan something particular in life, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z in terms of like career and whatnot.
Mhm.
I feel like that always just kind of falls. At least for me, it has. I'm much better with like, oh, I want to go X, Y, and Z and see X, Y,
Right.
and Z. And then that I feel those are much more tangible and much more accomplishable.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas, yeah, I just kinda never really had a plan, and it's always going with the flow. I have, like, personal plans for myself in terms of, like, health and fitness and things like that,
Right.
but in terms of, like, career and, like, where I land and end up in life, that is a fun mystery that that unveils itself little by little, day by day. So,
So let me ask you another question that I usually ask, which people can take all sorts of ways. So please interpret it the way you want to.
mhm,
But what does then, going off of that, happiness mean to you? And how do you think, or when, or where, or whatever you think you achieve or experience happiness in life?
in terms of happiness, yeah, happiness it's an emotion, and all emotions are temporary. Right, and that includes sadness, joy, like depression, the whole gambit, right? Anger, jealousy,
Right.
or achievement and pride, right? These are all emotions, these are all, temporary. So, can one achieve happiness overall? Well, no, it'd be crazy to be happy all the time. You'd probably be in a padded room. But I think one can be very content with themselves. Right,
Right.
and I always like to tell people you're worth standing up for, but the person most likely to do it is you. It's yourself. Okay, so, I think becoming content and becoming self-entertained is, like, very important,
Right.
and, whether you do that through a myriad of things or a select few things, that's up to you. I enjoy reading here and there. I enjoy DJing. I
Right.
love a workout at this phase in my life, but as I get older, my back maybe won't enjoy that as much. And like, maybe I'll lean heavier on music, or maybe I'll dive more and more into my books, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. I love going for a walk in nature. Stomping up a hill is always a good time in my mind, and or just staring at a fire, a campfire, right? That's always relaxing in a way, and I think it's really important to let when I feel happiness, I enjoy it. When I feel sadness, I let it flow, especially now as I'm getting to be an older man, what, 31, not an old man, but in terms like that
Very old.
25 to 30, I really just like got in tune with my emotions. And I'm like, when I'm sad, that's fine. It's totally fine to be sad. Put on a sad song and feel sadder, cry a little bit. Like, it's totally cool. When you're doing happy and you want to compound that, do so. If you're feeling awesome, be like, being great right now on ice cream, go do it, so, but do it all in moderation, I say, and, yeah, I think overall, it's just being content, and hanging out with yourself. I feel a lot of people are scared, not scared, but like afraid to hang out with themselves, to sit down with yourself in your own mind 20, 30 minutes, an hour, however long, and, like, really assess, like, what does make me happy? What
Yes.
does upset me? Am I just doing things because I want to do them, or my friends think it's cool, or my employer thinks it's cool, and so on and so forth. So,
That's such a great point, and that's one thing that I also had the luck of learning relatively early in my journey,
mm,
and just yeah, really figuring out, hey, all these things you're kind of not doing for yourself. And then even though you realize that you still went on a couple of years still doing them, and
yeah,
you had, or I personally had some experiences, and sometimes we need to, sadly, humans need to, even if we know things,
yeah,
to experience things that hurt us, to break our heart, to actually like learn these lessons
very true.
for the longer term.
Some people have to hit rock bottom to grow, and that's just like, but hopefully every time rock bottom's not as low, right? So if
Right.
hopefully you take away something from it and your bedrock builds up, right?
Yeah.
Gets a little taller. And so when you have the next crash, it's not as low. 'Cause it's like, well, I've been lower. I'm still here. Right. So, you know,
Which I also definitely would say is the case, because with myself as well, making personal progressions and whatever it is, emotional or um, in my communication, all these things. And let's say I had relapses with some substances, with alcohol, and every time I called myself away from that and went towards my goals again, I always felt like, oh, you're not starting from zero again, but you're starting from the point where you left off before you had
Mhm.
the relapse. So I feel like that's kind of what you were talking about.
Yeah.
You having drawbacks, like life is a roller coaster. Like there will be downs again, but every down, once you start going back up, you feel that you already have that little bit of things that you can fall back on that you
Yeah.
already had experienced beforehand.
Well, the more you fail, the better you get good at, like, catching yourself failing, in a way, or bouncing back, however hard you do fail, and failing is great. You should fail at something every day, you should try and push yourself to failure, whether it's, in some aspect or another.
Yeah.
I try and push myself to failure every day in the gym. I'm very happy to fail in the gym. I hope to fail. I hope every time I walk in there, I fail and I fail and I fail again. That's the goal, you know, because that leads to growth, both physically and mentally. Thinking you
Yeah.
didn't have 1 more in you, and shit, man, you had 2 more, That was cool. Like, and then same whether it's a relationship or schools, like, I never finished uni, I dropped out, and, but when but because of that, I started backpacking. Here I am now. And a lot of my friends back home, they're happy and they're doing their thing, but some of them are kinda stuck in careers that are like, they're like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And they're just kinda going through the motions, some of them. And they
Yeah.
see me out here backpacking. They're not jealous in a way, and because I'm jealous of them sometimes. Sometimes I do crave stability,
Yeah.
and I do crave that 9 to 5, but other times I'm like, I just don't know if I ever could actually do it, in that sense. 'Cause it just I like to be bored. Boring's good. I have a very boring backpacker routine. You've seen me
No,
do
I
it.
concur. Well, boring is great.
I think boring is great, and people rag on boring so bad. I'm like, man, to be boring is such a good thing. To have the opportunity to be boring is a privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it is. I think it really is. So I do. If my friends back home are hearing this and you're bored, it's good. It's good. It's okay. And then figure out if you are truly bored, that means you have time. And you have time to
Yeah.
fill if you so wish. If you want to sit and scroll or play an extra round or two in your game or go on another walk with the dog, that's fine. But if you want to pick up, do something else, you're more than welcome to because you have the free time.
That that's the point I just wanted to add about that as well is being bored is a thing that sadly just has become so rare in this society because we have all these stimuli that we could just have can pull out our phone and like you said, if you do it in moderation and with knowing, okay, I'm just gonna do it for 20 minutes, that's totally fine. But we just have all these options to numb ourselves and so that we can't really be bored anymore. And like you said, you have to be bored to figure out, oh yeah, I actually want to draw,
Mhm.
or I actually want to start this podcast. I actually, oh, let me DJ for a while. Oh, I'm quite good at this. Like
Yeah.
these things arise from us being born because if you're just have these external things, you scroll or you watch TV, it takes away from what you want to do, and you just basically you're like a sponge of everything out external, but
Yeah.
it's not about what's inside of you.
And nothing good's coming out that algorithm anyways. It's all
No.
just junk, isn't it? At the end of the day, like you get some funny stuff here and there, but the rest of it is just like, what the hell am I looking at? Like, and why? Who took the time to make this, and why?
Right.
They must have been truly bored. But but thank God for the bored meme makers, right? Because the silver lining to everything.
Yeah,
Anyways, though, like I'm like, hey, they do make me giggle, but it's scary how fast time can be gone by on when you're scrolling and stuff. It's
it
nuts how
is.
long a minute does when you hold like a minute can feel forever when you're holding a plank. But when you're scrolling on Instagram, it quickly turns into 10. I'm like, what? I just blinked. Like what? Like it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
Definitely. So, um, going back to yourself. So would you say? that contentment that we talked
Mhm.
about, and also you basically completely content and full of meaning sitting here in front of me saying, "I am boring," and you're totally okay with that. That whole thing. Do you think that travel, or let me ask it in a different way, in what way did you think that travel helped you with that?
Um, because the more I traveled, I realized there's so much boring downtime between all the sightseeing, all the transiting, repacking your bags, checking in and checking out of hostels. Like, there's just so much. There's actually quite a lot of downtime. What you're not what people are not posting on
Right.
Instagram and Facebook and all that is like, it's the 23 hours out the day that they're doing jack shit. Or it's that 1 hour when you go and see the Vatican, or like when you're in downtown Sydney, or like, all that. For the rest of the time, you're just getting there, and that can be it can be beautifully boring at times.
Mm.
I remember the train I caught um, from Ljubljana, so Slovenia,
Right,
up
Ljubljana, yeah. Well,
Ljubljana.
that's a
Yeah,
German.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, you would definitely say that in that place, Gafo, Slovenia, up to, Vienna, and that train ride was
Right.
beautiful. I was just sitting there on a train, which de facto is boring, but
Mm.
you look out the window and you're like, "What a great way to be bored." Like, what an awesome
Yeah.
way to be bored. And I wanted to read so bad, but I just couldn't peel my eyes away from the window, and it's just one I
It
just
is
put in the
such a
earpods and
beautiful spot
yeah.
to go through by train. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it was like the train was nice. It was during summer, it's like June, July, and it was hot. So, I was very happy to be on this AC controlled train,
Yeah.
particularly in Europe, because they tend to have, like, a personal the whole continent seems just to hate air conditioning sometimes. And so it's nice when you get on public transportation, then
And
it's there.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it is something. I never thought about the reasons. I don't even know if there is a reason, but it definitely isn't popular in Europe. Like, it's popular in the States, in Asia, in Australia, New Zealand, like, also for climatic
yeah.
kind of reasons. It's so popular, but in Europe, it never caught on. Like,
Well,
we're not
for
a
the longest time, it was always very temperate and nice in Europe, but now it's like, "Okay, after 14 record heat waves in a row,
Mm.
maybe you guys should do something about this. We can't tell the sun to be any cooler as much as we wanna try.
We could try.
We could try, like, you can just dial it back a few degrees." So but for the longest time, you didn't need it, right? You could just open up a window.
Yeah.
Old world, so these big, beautiful stone houses and buildings and whatnot that were built for, high ceilings and, like, room for the hot air to kinda piss off.
Yeah.
Whereas in more new world building, it's like little insulated walls and whatnot, and so you definitely need some help, both in the summer and winter, you know?
Yeah,
You
both
know?
ways. Yeah.
Both ways there. Whereas, you're up in these beautiful old stone houses and whatnot, and we're just, they're designed with airflow in mind. Where here in Australia, New Zealand, and America, it's like, I don't know, we're just gonna build 500 of the same homes in 5 days. So it's copy and paste it. And yeah.
That that's also something, that I saw, but yeah, again, it's probably just maybe different historical backgrounds, but, like you said, like, in Europe, like, the old buildings, they were always so, like, robust,
Mm.
like, very, and then, especially in the States, I feel like it was more like, "Let's build lightweight," so that we can, like, mass produce, that we
Yep.
can, like, also, like, these little, not really trailer parks, but these trailer kinda houses as well,
Yeah,
like,
modular homes. Yeah,
yeah,
so it's definitely a thing, and you can, like, literally order a home, and
and
they ship 2 halves, and they bind it together.
when I saw that on the, free or the highway, I
Yeah.
just saw, like, a
Yeah, yeah, you
house on the
probably saw it
truck.
on
I
the
was
highway,
like,
yeah.
"What
There'll be a
the"
second one somewhere down the road, and they get to the property, and then they put the house together. It's pretty cool, and then you just
Yeah.
come do you should already have all your gas and water lines ready to go. But yeah, it's pretty unique, and then but also some places like California and whatnot, there's a huge fault line, the earthquakes all the time. You don't want those big stone buildings, right? They're
Right.
gonna not deal with the, ground shaking. not so well, you
Yeah, that
know?
makes sense.
And, like,
Well,
still in places like Japan, they still building out of wood, right? They always have, and,
yeah.
because of that, same thing, so and you get that in New Zealand as well. There's a huge fault line in New Zealand. So
Yeah, I haven't been in Christchurch. I
yeah.
do know
So,
about that.
yeah, there's some big shakes go through there. So, only so much you can do architecture-wise, you know?
So, after Mexico, you said, I think, that's when you knew you were gonna backpack, you were gonna travel,
So, yeah, for as long as I could.
and the next stop was that 4-year stretch in Australia? Was
Yeah,
that
so I went home for a little bit, like, just, like, a month or so. I went back for Thanksgiving, so it's, like, late November,
right?
and then spent Christmas, New Year's, and then by January 20th, 2020, I landed in, Australia. And I knew so when I was in Mexico, I met a bunch of Australians, and I was like, "Oh, how does one, like, travel Australia cheaply?" And they're like, "Oh, look at a working holiday visa," which I'd never
Mhm.
heard of. And so, went home and I was like, "Oh, what the hell? This is cool." So I applied for it and, yeah, got awarded and, off I went. And yeah, it was fun. I immediately got to Sydney, went straight to Manly off my uncle's recommendation. He used to live there for a little bit when he was younger.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so got there, checked into a hostel called Stoke Beach House, and, yeah, eventually, like, worked my way into, like, a volunteer, like, bartending position, but I didn't have to
Mm,
pay for accommodation, and then eventually they promoted me up to night manager, so I got paid to live in Manly, so that's very
mm.
cool, very rare. Yeah, it was awesome. I made some of my, like, best friends there. That's where, I started discovering, like, electronic music and, like,
Oh, sure.
going to parties here and there, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool," and, like, seeing it DJs, actual DJ in person, and I was just like, "I wanna do this. This looks so much fun." And
Yeah.
then one of my very good friends who that's the reason I'm here in WA, um, yeah, I just would just stand over his shoulder and see how he did it, and then, he'd let me have a go here and there, just so on and so forth, just kept practicing. Eventually, I had my own gear and then upgraded that gear, and then,
Right.
yeah, and then would hop on and do a couple shows with him here and there.
So just a little interlude. This is not gonna mean anything to
Mhm.
anyone, but, just for my personal curiosity, so that was the guy that was at the hostel the other day? Was that your friend?
No, no, no,
Got it.
that was Danny. I just met him, like, a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
But he gave me a gig as well, so I'll be playing next Saturday.
oh, for real?
Yeah, 201 Below, come on out.
Well, actually, this will drop right tomorrow right away, so
Yeah.
if you're in Frio, come
Yeah,
by.
should be pretty good, so
Um, yeah, sorry, I didn't wanna interrupt the story, and I also didn't wanna skip over the fact that you, mentioned Manly,
Mm.
because when I went to Sydney just now 4 or 5 weeks ago with my parents, we also took the ferry out to Manly, and
Yeah,
it is an amazingly cool place. We
it
just
is.
been there for a day, just having lunch, chilling on the beach, and then we went back to Sydney, but it is such a chill place.
It feels like it's not even part of Sydney, it's
Yeah.
like this little beach town that's kinda stapled on there, but it's just a ferry ride away. Honestly, the ferry ride itself is just fun. I do recommend if you're in Sydney, just hop on the ferry and go for a ride, like, it's cool. You get really cool
Yeah.
views of, like, North Head and South Head,
Or you
and
get
then
such good views coming back
yeah, and all the
from the
bay, and
city.
oh my gosh, when you're coming back and it turns the corner, and, like, there's the Opera House and the Harbor Bridge and the whole Sydney
Yeah.
skyline, like, it's that big, like, it's definitely worth just doing that for. Cost you $8, like, please go
Yeah.
do it. It's nothing like it, yeah. So, yeah. And then, yeah, Manly itself is this beautiful little peninsula, you can walk across it and, yeah,
Yeah.
the Corso's right there, takes you, like, what, 300 meters to walk across it.
Yeah, it's like
And then, yeah, there's all little sneaky hiking trails. You can go up to the North Head. There's the old, like, barracks, and, like, the old bunkers and stuff.
oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if you went up there, but it's very cool.
No, I've seen that there was loads of hiking trails,
Yeah.
but my parents are almost be in their 60s. We're
Oh, yeah.
stuck to the beach.
No, that's good, that's good. But, yeah, the beach is wonderful, isn't it? And then, they just keep getting better as you go up the northern beaches, like Freshwater and DY and Narrabeen and Avalon and all the way to Palm Beach, which is, like, the very most picturesque beach in the world. It's that lighthouse.
Have to go
And it's a
back.
little skinny peninsula, and on one side, it's like this, like, inlet like, lagoon, and the other side is, like, the ocean. It's this, like, little
Right.
skinny strip, and it makes for really cool pictures. So I
Nice.
do recommend. I used to clean pools up there with another friend. It was very nice houses, it was crazy. So
So so Manly, all these things, so, came together there, so you stayed there a while.
yeah, stayed there for a while, and, like, that's when, like, lockdown happened with COVID.
Right.
And was there for a while, and, a lot of the backpackers left, but they kept me on as night manager, which was, like, crucial for my wallet at the time.
Mm,
And,
like, business must have suffered, right?
definitely, but, like, we would still get people checking in here and there.
Right.
We couldn't do our full capacity anymore. Capacity was, like, 120, and that got cut down quickly to, like, 40, 50.
Right.
But we'd still get check-in, particularly, like, traveling, like, tradesmen normally,
Right.
like, other Aussies, but you occasionally get occasional backpacker
Mm.
coming in and out, so
I mean, because, yeah, obviously, you always think about, yeah, no one can go into Australia at that point, and New Zealand, kind of the same story, but you forget about, like yourself, all the backpackers that are already there. So
yeah.
there is, even though no one can get in at this time, there still were backpackers in the country.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people elected to stay. I just knew, like, I was like, man, with the current administration back then, it was during the first Trump administration, and I was like, I don't think they're gonna handle this very well. So I was
Right.
like, I'll probably be safer staying here, and they didn't handle it very well. And but Australia took care of me. Like, like they took care of my vaccinations and stuff, and
Mhm.
like, yeah, it was like well looked after. And even when I lost work, I got like weekly payments from
Oh, yeah.
the Australian government as well. So, like, that was cool as a backpacker. So,
That
yeah.
that is actually pretty.
Yeah. In addition to, like, the 2 or 3 checks the American government sent out. So, for a little bit there, I was double dipping. But,
Oh, so they did send out to people being overseas.
yeah, yeah, it's that they just got dropped into your account by the IRS. So,
Right.
be cool if they did that more often if you're listening, IRS.
Which I know you are.
But yeah, it's the same as, like, getting a tax return. Just, like, comes back that way.
Right.
But yeah, so I stayed and then eventually went off and did my, regional work.
Yeah.
Yeah, at like a horse stud. Like, so they kept race horses there, and then I had a stallion and,
Us.
like 200 something mares and the 1 stallion. So
Did you have
he
any
was a busy
prior
boy.
experience, with
My
horses?
family had horses, like, I know how to ride a little bit, but, like,
Okay.
these ones you didn't ride, like, these are straight up
They were
race
just
horses, like, we just would, move them around from
breeding.
paddock to paddock. Picked up a lot of horse shit. Like, that's how you started your morning. Every morning was clearing out, like, the 2 barns.
Right.
They poop a lot. Like, yeah. You're like, "God, how much could one animal poop?" Well, it's, like, a lot.
It's a huge ass animal.
Huge ass
Like,
animal, they're just, like, really big, dumb dogs. Just run really fast. So but bless them, 'em, they're funny. So, yeah, we do that, and I was, my job other than that, I was, like, groundskeeper. So I'd, like, have these 2 big mowers and, like, would
mm,
keep the lanes clear and stuff like that and go into certain paddocks. And then, like, little whippersnippering the corners and the man who run the place, he's very particular about many things, so I had, like it took, like, 5 days to do all the grounds work. So, then
5 days to the
yeah,
how big was
it's
the
huge,
space?
like 12,000 acres.
Oh, wow.
It's massive. But I wasn't even doing, like, all that, I was just doing, like, the, like, accessible parts that, like, you would see if you came as, like, a person,
Right.
and then they had, like, a big tractor and slasher to do, like, the bigger fields,
Mm.
but that I was on the more ride-ons and stuff. Yeah, and then, like, edging the lawns and blowing out the lawn, and yeah.
So that was, like, in regional New South
Yeah,
Wales?
regional New South Wales is in between Cowra and Frogmore.
Right.
Yes, if you're fucking those 2 places on a map, you can somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So, yeah, but it was good. Yeah, I made some good friends there, and yeah, it was nice. It was really beautiful, actually. So, really pretty brutal schedule. We worked, like, 12 days on, then 2 days off. Um, but it wasn't horrible. So, kinda whipped me into shape, saved up a lot of money, and
Oh, yeah, I bet.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
sunrises and sunsets, it was amazing, and it was nice. So, I wouldn't mind doing it again, honestly.
So, I mean, probably with you, having admitted to being boring, but, you preferred the regional life? You feel like it has more, like, peace and tranquility to it?
Definitely. Like, as and, another thing as I travel more and more, like cities are cities. Yeah, like, sure, there are some distinct standouts in terms of, like, skyline or things to do from different city to different city, but, like, overall, it's just, like, a mass population of people, and after a while, I not even after a while, I get pretty tired of people pretty quick, so, um, like, hanging out in a hostel and being social, but just, like, it can be quite aggravating, like, even in Manly, you go out for a morning walk,
Mm,
and if you're not out there at 5 AM,
it's packed.
it's packed.
Mm.
By the time I wait, give it 6:30, go for a walk, and there's everyone and their brother on a run. Everyone and their sister's playing volleyball. Yoga class. It's just like, oh my god, I just want to, have a coffee and like not have
Yeah,
to like bob and weave through all the morning swimmers and joggers and like, which is lovely. I'm very glad to see a very active society. I'm not knocking that. Um, but just the general congestion. Just general
yeah.
congestion. There's just a lot of people on this planet. So, it's if I want people, that's great. I know where to go. It's just nice to be out in nature. I've always been like kind of a nature guy. So, ideally for me, a great trip is just like pack up the truck and just go. Go to a national park, go to a beach and camp, or if you don't have a truck, get a ride and set up a tent, and do it that way. And that's what I plan to do in New Zealand. Like I'm just gonna work,
Yeah.
get a nice van, and then just you know disappear.
New Zealand is such a great country for that though,
Yeah.
and, I mean, I talked about it on the podcast before, but one of to this day, one of the best experiences in my life was walking the, Milford Track, which is just south of Queenstown, where I've
Yeah,
been for quite a while.
I've had my eyes on that for a long time.
And the cool thing was, just to tell you, was that the hostel I was working at actually the same company that owned our hostel owns the hiking company that does the guided tours along the Milford Track. So I got like an 80% discount on the guided tours. So that's why I said I definitely have to do it. And
Definitely, yeah.
just 5 days in nature, it was incredible, and the scenery, it really was incredible. It was such a good experience.
Yeah, I wanna go 'cause they filmed a lot of, like, the, like, walking scenes for the rings and whatnot and all, like, the,
Yeah.
landscape shots and stuff, so, yeah, it's been on my list for a long time, and then there's that beach track on the northern bit of the southern island.
Yes, the, Abel Tasman
Abel
track.
Tasman, that is the one.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely wanna do that as well, so
That one's amazing as
yeah, and all this the whole and this looks like this beautiful tropical well, everything, it's not even tropical, it's got everything, right? You can find forests, you can find, this and that, and so, I mean, I'm very excited to get there and, just explore. Yes.
so, um, as of yet, what would you say, was your best experience out in nature? Do you have one that stands out?
Yeah, actually, and not even being biased, it would be back in the US. Did a huge road trip last year, from Arizona up to Colorado, like Utah, Nevada, and
Mm,
California. Did 5,000 miles
wow.
just in those like 6 states. Got to go skiing for the first time within that.
Oh, cool.
Like saw like in Death Valley, which is in like interior California. Got a permit to go like camp up this canyon. So I drove the truck up this like slot canyon,
Oh.
and it was so quiet. It was deafening.
Mm.
Like, it was just so like, the pressure, you could just feel the pressure in it, but it was so dark, and it was cool because the slot canyon, you could see us. It was like, you could only see what the canyon let you see, but you kinda
Mm.
saw, like, a river of the night sky. That makes sense because it's the
Right.
same shape as the canyon, right?
Mm.
So, it's so dark out there, and you could see everything, and then, like, a satellite, like a low altitude satellite came out, and I thought for a hot second, I swear I was like, "Oh my god, this is it. This is a UFO. They're coming." I was like, "Oh, it's a satellite, thank God." But, yeah, you could just hear every little note. You could, like, hear, like, the bats waking up and, like, scruffing on the rock, and,
But just to, stay with that point for a second, that's just something, I mean, even looking up now, that's just sadly we can't get in civilization anymore, like that unrestricted view of the night sky, like you've just explained.
'Cause,
Like,
yeah, another thing was that you get all that light pollution, right? And you just can't like, you'll be able to see some bright stars, but, like,
yeah,
yeah, you won't be able to see them
but
all.
the way you've seen it from Death Valley must have been
It
like
was amazing.
astonishing.
And then just all, like, the lonely desert, like, highways, or, like, going through pine forests in, like, Colorado and Utah and northern Arizona. It was kinda winter-ish, so, like, as we came out the south, we got colder and more snow on the ground. But that was,
Right.
like, a cool juxtaposition of going from, like, cactus and up to pine forests and, having to, like, deal with ice and snow on the road, which I
Yeah.
haven't had to deal with too much in my life, so that was, it's a little scary at times, but, you learn and just always just drive slow. It's the safest thing you can do.
But that definitely again without praising, oh, the United States
Mm,
too much, but objectively, that is just one of the very cool things about it is it's a huge country.
it's
So
massive.
it's like like you've just said, the diversity. I just want to emphasize that
Yeah.
is just one of its biggest ups as well. That all these things are in the same country.
Yeah, and, like, from Zion to, Grand Canyon to Arches, Death Valley, all the way down to, like, Chiricahua and, like, Organ
Mm.
Pipe and Saguaro National Park, or going even out further west in the California, like Joshua Tree, and they all just
Yeah,
have their own distinct things, and, each one's kinda gets getting better and better and better,
definitely.
and yeah, and some are a lot more popular than others, like, obviously, Grand Canyon's super popular,
Yeah.
Death Valley is quite popular, Joshua Tree is very popular. It's very close, it's, like, not too far away from LA and,
Mm.
like, San Diego, so it's kind of a close one. Whereas other ones are, like, kinda out in the, like, a really cool one was called Capitol Reef in Utah, it's in southern Utah, and that one, we happened to catch it on a good day and, like, really good weather, and there was, like, nobody there, and
Mm.
had, like, these awesome hiking trails all to ourselves, so,
Nice.
yeah, really enjoyed that one. That was very good. Yeah, and then just the fact, like, in the States, you can do, just free camping everywhere.
Oh,
It's called BLM land, so there's, like, the national parks are generally protecting something, so you can't camp in the national park,
mm.
although some do have campsites, but you gotta pay for them. But
Right.
surrounding them, it's a thing, it's called the Bureau of Land Management,
Mhm.
and that is public land, that is your land. So it's your right to go use it. You can
Oh,
stay in any one spot for 2 weeks. And then you just have to, like, move your car. So, people, like, live full time like that. You can just, like, park here for 2 weeks and then move your car 10 meters and stay there for 2
I
weeks.
actually didn't know that fact.
Yeah,
That
and
is pretty
it's
cool.
free, and it's, leave no trace, take out what you take in, and,
Right.
like, yeah, also, there's, like I've never seen a ranger out there checking. You could probably
Mm.
stay in the same spot for fucking 2 months. No one would care.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's beautiful, and then places like Sedona, Arizona,
Mm.
it's like how is what there's a city here. It's not a huge city, but it's just built into this like big, beautiful red rocks and like buttes and stuff.
Oh,
Um, kind of similar to Monument Valley. You've seen like where Forrest
right.
Gump's running up the hill there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which we went through that too. There's actually they have a hill. It's called Forrest Gump Hill.
Yeah.
That's yeah. So that's there. But yeah, it's
There
all
actually is
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the
Forrest Gump
Skunk
Hill.
Hill
Oh,
in
okay.
Monument Valley where he like decides to not run anymore and turn around. Yeah, that's where it is.
So that definitely was named after the movie though, right? That would be
Yeah, I was
particularly
yeah, yeah, I was named
yeah.
after yeah, definitely named after the movie, they added it after the movie. So, yeah, that's in Navajo Nation. So, Navajo is one of the bigger tribes,
Yeah.
Native American tribes, and yeah, that Monument Valley is the bulk of Monument Valley is within Navajo Nation. So,
Right.
yeah, it's very cool.
Um, so another thing I also 'cause it's about yourself and it's about your interest. So what especially made you fall in love with electronic music when you started to get to know that and experimenting yourself with it a little bit?
It was something I was like I didn't know I was looking for it, but when I found it, I knew. And, like, looking back at my, like, music history, it was something there are parts of songs that I always really liked. They're almost always just instrumental and a little funky. Like, there's a bit in the end of, like, Burning Down the House by Talking Heads
Mm.
where this, like, kinda funky electric piano comes in, and I was like, "Man, if you just put that on loop, I'd listen to it forever." Or, like and I really liked, like the Halo music, growing up, like the instrumental Halo, like,
Right.
yes, the intro is awesome, "Oh, that's cool," but, like, the other ones you're not really noticing because 'cause you're just playing the game, you're, like, on level 5 or whatever.
Mm,
It was those tracks that was like, "It's cool," and, like, I'm like, "I don't know what this is, like, I don't know what I'm looking for," you know?
right.
And then, when I got out here and heard it, and I was like, "Oh my god." As cheesy it is to say, it's like this a lot of this music has no words, but I know exactly what it's saying,
Mm,
and, like, it just speaks to me, like, it really does. I can feel it in my chest, in my heart, makes my brain whirl and think, and it just without even thinking, my hips and feet are just moving, and they will never stop as long as it's on, you know?
that's great.
I know many times I've gone to a party or a festival, and it's like, by midnight, I've hit 30,000 steps, and then from midnight to, like, 6 a.m., another 20,000. You know, just like, it just, that's a huge day,
It
or
definitely
a huge
is.
night, really, like, done all my walking for a week in just one night, just in this little squared meter space, just stepping back and forth and spinning around and, getting in little dance battles with your friends and stuff, and it's just fun. It's absolutely fun.
It just really is amazing to me because, I mean, I guess everyone listening to this knows like my genre is hip hop.
Mhm.
That's what I'm into. That's what I've been listening to when I was young, and never really had any connection with techno or EDM or whatever. Yeah, I'm such a noob, but for me,
No, you're
all these
fine.
things are kind of similar. Um, but in Portugal, one of my roommates, he was actually a techno DJ.
Mhm.
So I already had a little bit of an entry into that world, and kind of it's always the same kind of things that people do tell you is that, yeah, they're just in the music, the music makes them feel things like you just described. You can just like completely like lose yourself
Yeah,
in the music and do these things and um I feel like that's such a great thing. That's what music,
that's what
at
it
the end
should
of
be.
it, that's what
Yeah,
yeah, that's what
yeah,
it's there for.
and, yeah, everyone will feel that eventually, I think. Just keep looking for your genre, and it could be hip hop, it could be one particular band, some people follow, right, a band all over a world tour, for some people, it's Taylor Swift, that's fine. I don't really knock anybody's music taste, like, if you get that euphoric feeling listening to so and so, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's good. You found your place, but for me, this electronic music, like techno, house, disco, electro, and all the little funky genres in between, just gives me a euphoric feeling. I play the track and I smile, or I play the track and I want to lift a little harder or run a little faster.
right.
I play the track and I go from feeling somber and melancholy to better, to better. You know,
So because I also have my sort of like playlist that I listen to when I exercise, for
Mhm.
example, and um And I mean, obviously, because it's not my music, electronic music isn't in there, but, so is electronic music actually suited for that as well? Like, you can listen to that while you exercise?
Definitely, I mean, like, it's in a good wheelhouse of, like, a lot of it's from 120 BPM to 140 BPM, which is, like, an elevated heart rate, so oftentimes it'll match,
Mm,
um, like, your literal heart rate at
right.
under stress there, and then, yeah, just it's just fun to fall and beat with it, and it's also how I like to crate dig while I work out because, like, if the song is so good, it gets me to stop working out and I'm now dancing, so that one's definitely one that should go on the
Right,
USB.
right.
So yeah. So it's also a good way to because, that's the best way to simulate on being on a dance floor. That sweaty dance floor of like, "Oh, yeah,"
Mm,
like, well, if I'm on set 5 of 8 out of squats and I'm, like, taking a dance break to hear this track I've never heard before, and I was like, "Well, I should probably save this track then," you know? So, and other times I put on more familiar ones because I know what it already does for me, So,
right.
no, it's good.
So, with being a DJ, and again, I just have my roommate as an example. But do you feel like for you it is just being inspired by the songs you hear and then like mixing them and letting other people enjoy them, or do you feel like at some point you might want to produce yourself?
Oh, definitely wanna produce down the road, but for now, it's just, like, it's purely a joy of, like, finding a good song and this annoyingly, like, make everyone listen to it. Right? I'm just on the aux cord, right, in a way,
Yeah.
and, like, that's the cool thing about being DJ is, like, I'm literally just playing what I wanna hear because I want you guys to hear it,
Yeah.
I'm spending a lot of time, oh my god, we're gonna get attacked or something in the bushes. There's I spend a lot of time not that I care, it's not like anybody owes me anything, but I spend a lot of time, finding good music, and I just wanna share it with people because a lot of people know like, there's so much music out there across all genres, but, like, electronic
Mm.
in particular, sometimes you'll find a shock like, a humongous track, and then you'll go and it has, like, less than 1,000 plays on Spotify. You're like,
Right.
"What?" From someone you've never heard about. And I'm like, "This
Mm.
needs to be like, people need to hear this. People need to hear this." Like, it's just fun sharing like, that's all the age are doing, they're sharing music. They're just like, "Look what I found, isn't this cool?"
Yeah.
Like, like, that's literally all it is. It's like a very it's an audible show and tell, That's
That I mean, I definitely agree with that, and I mean, that's also how hip hop started. It was basically like the MCs who just put loops together for
Mhm.
like stuff they used to hear, and then people freestyled on. And so I definitely see that kind of thing. Like, yeah, just share music with each other, seeing what comes from it. And
There's a big crossover in, like, electronic music production and hip hop production, particularly in genres like house and whatnot, where, like, they're both sampling soul. They're both
yeah,
sampling old R&B, and, like, there's a lot of
right.
crossover there, and, like, it's pretty cool both in style and everything, but, yeah, hopefully one day I would like to produce my friend I was talking speaking of earlier, he's producing and starting to put out some tracks, and it's funny because he's, like, one of the best DJs I know, and he gets so nervous to play his own stuff,
Mm.
and he always says 'cause he 'cause I'm the same, like, I'm just sharing my favorite artist's favorite music, and he's doing the same, and who am I to put my own song and what I think are the best. It's like imposter
Right.
syndrome in a way. But at the same time, I encourage, and he did. We went to a diff, and he played his own song, and it went off. Absolutely went off.
Ah,
So
that's amazing.
I'm like, the worst thing is if it doesn't go off, just transition out, and nobody has to know it was you. Nobody has was your song. It's still like, but like ideally, if people are gonna dance to it because they're gonna think it's good. So yeah, but hopefully one day when I get time and yeah, maybe somewhere more stable, I'd like to maybe take a music production class and,
Yeah.
or, like, really sit down, like, normally it's just through Ableton and, just sit down and tinker with it and have time to tinker with it.
Um, that that question just really spontaneously came to me because you said something more stable. Something that went through my mind as well, especially like with the more creative things we do. Just from my personal experience, from my podcast, sometimes I do think like, oh yeah, if you just like had a place, you had a routine, you had your own room, your own studio,
Yeah.
maybe it would be more helpful. Yeah, well, what's your thought on that? Like being creative and stability, or like location stability?
Yeah, I mean, like, it definitely helps, but at the same time, it can lead to complacency, and whereas, like, being on the road, it's like I don't have my decks or anything with me, so if I want to go use a deck, the best way to do that is go play a gig, which is kinda
Right.
scary 'cause you're practicing in real time in front of people,
Yeah, you.
but they don't do that. So, like you're just kinda doing your thing. As at home, like, I had decks and I didn't hop on them as much as I should have, but even though they're, like, right there,
Yeah,
So, like, I can feel like you have a home studio, you can always like, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow," and tomorrow turns into a week turns into a month,
that was also true.
whereas, like, when you're doing it like this, you're kinda forced to be like, "Well, I told someone I'd do it,
Yeah,
and they're already lining up for it, so shit," you know, guess I gotta go do it. It kinda makes you but pushes you to challenge yourself and, be comfortably uncomfortable, you know?
yeah.
So and, like, rolling with the punches. So I was like, "Oh god."
It's like a whole transition back to where we started. It's like
Yeah,
we just I mean, we don't want to fail, but yeah, we want to fail.
who wouldn't
It's
fail?
just like
Yeah.
we want to fail, so next time we can be even greater and fail higher, and then we
Yeah,
just
and I expect one day I'll play a set that's absolute shit, and then I maybe get kicked off the stage, but I'm like, "Okay, but that's not gonna stop me from getting back on the stage." You know what I mean? So, now I know, like, don't play those songs ever again. Jesus. Like, there's there's all kinds of things to learn from a failure, definitely. But yeah, I mean, at times I do crave stability and somewhere it'd be nice to have somewhere to go back to and like and
Mm,
expand those things further. But right now, where I'm sitting, it's kind of more advantageous to be on. I'm on the seat of my pants here, and I'm like, oh, don't we know when the next one's coming? So just got to hit this one hard, and
yeah.
see what happens from there.
So, um, as most of this
When to
is
go away.
well, people can't see what we're doing, but we
Yeah,
shielded our
looks like we're
mics.
FaceTiming right now.
Um, yeah, so obviously this conversation was very past based, talking from what you've been through, and yeah, just holding a conversation from that. So um now I always want to ask about the future as well. So you mentioned it, and I know that you gonna go to New Zealand.
Yep.
Um, Farther than that, is there any plans? Is there any because you said like you do have places I want to go, like anything that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, before I go to New Zealand, I'm gonna do like a loopy loop through like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. I've never been to Southeast Asia. It's like Thailand and all that.
Yeah.
It's very cheap. It's very affordable. It looks beautiful. All the beaches and islands and whatnot, and just like the getting into the cultures. It looks phenomenal. Phenomenal, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyway,
Phenomenal.
phenomena. Um, and yeah, like all the, as an American going to Vietnam, like I definitely like want to see the War Museum and stuff, and be like,
Yeah.
how cool was it to go to a war museum to a country that actually beat us, and like seeing it from their perspective, because I'm sure what I was taught in my history books was not
What they got.
100% of what was actually happened, so that'll be eye opening. And I heard it's pretty brutal, and I crave
Right.
that. Like that's cool. I want some eye opening stuff.
But yeah,
Uh,
Caleb talked about it the other night, right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that'll be fun to see in a very interesting way. And then, yeah, get on a scooter and, go through
Yeah.
the loop and the Mekong Delta and then, yeah, Cambodia, Laos, down to Thailand, go from there. Might even like hop on a plane to Philippines because it just looks so lush.
It
I've heard
it
so many good
looks
things.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it must be so beautiful
And
there.
if you think Mexican people are nice, oh my God, let me tell you, Filipino people are like the nicest people on earth. For all my interactions I've had with Filipino people, it's been absolutely wonderful.
Right.
Like beautiful, beautiful people. So yeah, it'd be cool to go down there and just, um, yeah, chill on an island and see what's up. And then eventually, yes, New Zealand after that. And then after New Zealand, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's completely wide open. I've been thinking, the more I travel, I will always love America, but like it just like looks so bleak at times, both
Mm,
politically and like economically, just like so much wealth inequality. And not that that's like my fault or right type billionaires to give handouts, but it's just like, like minimum wage is still 7.50 an hour. It's crazy. And like
that is crazy.
home prices just keep going up and up and up. It just seems like so, I'm like, I just feel like I'm going to work to the day I die, over there. And, just, as much as I love the nature and the people, it just seems like fragile at this point. But doesn't the whole world almost seems fragile currently. So I don't know. Probably I was thinking maybe doing a student visa either here in Australia or there in New Zealand.
Right.
And I don't know if like I'll finish up history or something, but probably a trade. Like I like working with my hands, like being outside. And never been super picky. So whether it be like an electrician or a diesel mechanic or like
Like
the big industry out in New Zealand is the dairy farms. So maybe
yeah.
doing something in nature, along with that. Um, and yeah, just see where I go and see
It
how I go.
sounds like a and I mean that in the best way possible, like the simple life, you know?
Yeah. So that's all I've ever wanted, you know?
No, no, I do romanticize that. I do feel
Yeah,
like that's a good thing to long for.
definitely. I don't know if it's Leonard Skinner or Bad Company, but one of them has a song called Simple Man. And it's very good.
I'm pretty sure Lynyrd Skynyrd probably does.
Yeah,
It
yeah. It's
probably
one of the
does.
two. One of the two. I should know, but hey. But the song is just that. It's just a mother telling her son to be a simple man. Not in terms of like intelligence,
Yeah,
but
but
just like
just
the more simple you make your life, the happier, you'll be overall more often than not.
Like we talked be like through the between the lines. That's how you say. Like we talk between the lines as well. It's like once you're content and you kind of know what you're doing, you kind of know what you want to do, what makes you happy, like finding these things, these hobbies that you have. Um, Man doesn't need that much.
No, nor does a woman.
Yeah, a few men like
But yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah, but yeah, once you just find what makes you happy, what makes you happy. And I cannot stress that enough. What makes you happy?
yeah.
Be selfish in that regard. I encourage people to be selfish a lot in life, not in terms of like blowing people off if you made plans and stuff,
Yeah.
but like doing exactly what you want to do as long as it's not like detrimental to your health or anybody else's. Learning to say no is such a big thing. I learned that later on in life. Always been a people pleaser,
Mm.
and I cannot stress this enough. No is a complete sentence, at least in English. In English, the word no by
Amen.
itself is a complete sentence. And so I just want to, that'll be my advice of the day. And yeah, just yeah, being content, find out what makes you happy. And like just like like unshamedly liking what you like nerd out on like if you like something, nerd out on it. I nerd out on electronic music and Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? Like I've read all the books and I've also listened to every song ever. Like well, it
Right.
seems like not really, but yeah, but I love both just as passionately as much as I love like NFL and NBA. You know, like people have a really hard time reading me. Like I don't know if this guy's a jock or a nerd. It's like, well, I'm both. I really like sports. I really like playing sports, and I really like lightsabers too. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. So
And these things are possible and they are totally fine. Like,
yeah, you can be both. You can be 3 things, 4 things, 5 things. You can do it all. You know, it'd be hard to do it all at once, but that's why you pick and choose your battles. You know, maybe don't DJ on a train. But that'd be a good time to read the Game of Thrones book, which I do recommend.
um, well, I feel like we could go on the whole Game of Thrones rant about the last season,
Don't even get me started.
but no, seriously, Tim. There's, I feel like a lot of things that we could talk for another couple of hours, but especially with the last kind of wisdoms that you shared here, I feel like it's a good place to end it for today. And
Yeah,
who knows, maybe fate will see us again at some later point. We
you
never know.
never.
But yeah, for today, I just really want to thank you for taking the time,
Thank
sitting
you.
down in this beautiful little spot that we actually found, and it was really a nice spot.
Not too bad. A little bit of wind. I hope you listeners didn't get too affected by that. At the old Shipwreck Museum. There's a
It
shipwreck in there, believe it or not.
appears to be part of the Maritime Museum, though, but
It
it's its
is.
own thing.
There's.
Um, so yeah, from my side, if you just by the off chance that anyone listening to this isn't free at the moment, tell us about your next gig. Can you repeat what
Oh
that
yeah,
was?
yeah. So it's not this Saturday, the next, so 12th of
Right.
April. At 201 below, if you happen to be in Frio. I go on from I want to say 4 to 5:30 in the PM, not the AM, thank God. It's for someone's going away party. So yeah. If you're in Frio and you're listening, come on down. Should be a good time.
Very cool. So, Tim, thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. Bye, everyone.